Production support for the weekly special is provided by IU School of Public Health Bloomington, addressing public health needs by preventing disease, promoting health, and improving quality of life across the state and around the world through research, teaching, and community engagement.
Smithville Fiber, the Giga City Company, a philanthropic community partner since 1922, and a proud supporter of numerous community organizations. More information at smithville.com.
The Al Cobine Recognition Endowment Fund, established by friends and family of Al Cobine to support jazz initiatives on WTIU and WFIU. And WTIU members, thank you.
Fall colors are lighting up Indiana's landscapes like so many seasons before.
And it's a great opportunity to explore how time and tradition have shaped our state. Meet an incredible Indiana knife maker, forging a name for himself in the culinary world. Wander through over 390 million years of history at the falls of the Ohio State Park. And journey up the river to Madison, Indiana, where time stands still in the Schroeder Saddletree Factory. Plus, welcome the eclectic and insightful singer-songwriter Bryce E Taylor to the studio. Tread new paths through Indiana's history.
Tonight on the Weekly Special.
Welcome to the Weekly Special. I'm Aric Geesaman.
And I'm Daryl Neer. Erica, I've missed you. I'm glad to have you back, but I think we need to tell people where you've been.
I'm happy to be back too. Well, this summer, my husband and I welcomed our second son into our family, and I'm super happy to be back, even if it is on a little less sleep.
Well, but you were still working.
That is true. I had so much fun meeting our next subject. Though Aric Geesaman had a successful start in bioscience, it was his love of creativity and craftsmanship that ultimately shaped his career.
I feel like a lot of us have memories of our parents and grandparents. I have some of my grandparents' old knives. I remember standing at their kitchen counter when my grandma was cutting up carrots for stew or whatever. I remember that knife. It's in my head. Things like camping knives or hunting knives. These are things that families do together. All of that is a kind of memory and nostalgia that I think anybody can just about connect with. And it feels really nice to have a tool that solidifies that connection.
From steel blade to wood handle, Aric Geesaman makes custom knives by hand at his home workshop in McCordsville, northeast of Indianapolis. He's one of a few, if not the only craftsman, making high-quality knives in Indiana.
I try to create legacy tools that people can use in their day-to-day lives and pass down to another generation of people to use and love in their day-to-day lives. I try to make tools that will outlast me, outlast the initial owner, and can go on and live a fruitful life with the next generation of people and maybe even beyond that.
Aric's company is Ash Blades, and his signature is pairing top-notch blades with beautiful wood handles. Elegant rosewood, 100-year-old rustic barnwood, wild mesquite burl, and striking zebra wood. Aric uses it all. He finishes his knives with polished details like copper and brass pins, geometric shaped handles, and collars in contrasting wood. At first glance, they might look too pretty to use, but daily use is exactly what they're meant for.
I strive to obviously balance my own sense of aesthetic with the absolute necessity of function. This feels good in my hand, this is well designed, it looks beautiful, this all fits to be a tool that I want to use.
As Aric learned to sharpen knives using his grandpa's old oil stone, he came to understand them, and it felt like a natural jump to try his hand at making them. Aric left his bioscience job to start Ash Blades full-time. His first knife, he recalls, was not exactly a masterpiece.
I love that knife, but it's absolutely trash. But when I first finished that knife, I was so excited. I try to remember now when there's this little detail that I'm struggling to get right, I try to remember how many details I didn't get right with my first knife, but how it's still a knife. It still cuts, and I still love it.
Aric makes custom knives for a variety of people, including top Indianapolis chefs at Rook, Milktooth, and Turketti's.
Customizing knives actually takes a lot more time. If someone is going to spend the money and I'm going to spend the time, let's make it your knife so that every time you pick that knife up, you have some association with it. I have a couple that came to me to have a set of knives made out of the extra wood left over from them making a rocking chair for their firstborn daughter. That means so much more to me than just putting a knife in front of someone and saying, here, this is your knife, buy this or don't.
Restorations are another rewarding part of what Aric does.
So I do a little research to try and return some of that information back to the customer, because a lot of times they don't know. It's just a knife that's been in their family for 60 years. It's always a challenge to reverse engineer and kind of deconstruct and reconstruct something that I didn't make to begin with to make it potentially better than it was originally. It's always fun to put that then back in their hands and say, there you go, this thing's been in your family for 70 years, and it's got another 70 years on it now.
And you can check out more of Aric's beautiful craftsmanship at his website, ashblades.com. And you definitely have to check out Ashblade's Instagram account. Aric posts beautiful photos, like progress photos of these knives, and sometimes he even lets it slip which Indiana chef he's designing it for, which I think is pretty cool.
The journey of customization.
Yeah.
Well, our next Indiana find may not have been left for future generations on purpose like an ash blade, but is a treasure to behold. And today, one of the state's most incredible natural wonders.
Looking west from the Conrail Bridge, one will find a stretch of bared rock along the northern bank of the Ohio River. This seemingly ordinary expanse of rock is actually one of the world's largest exposed Devonian period fossil beds and is the main attraction to the Falls of the Ohio State Park. Customary to Midwest rivers, the area today is teeming with waterfowl and the usual plant life. But 387 million years ago, this region would have been under a shallow tropical sea, and the surrounding landscape would have actually been blanketed by a prehistoric coral reef. The ancient reef sat on a layer of limestone, and as the remains of the area's marine life settled on the sea's floor, they would become petrified in the limy stone and then entombed under sediment deposits, where they would remain for several ice ages, until the meltwaters from receding glaciers would carve out the Ohio River Valley, removing the layers of rock and sediment covering the fossilized coral seafloor. The particular type of limestone found here is called Jefferson limestone, and it's well known for its fossil density and preservation of fossils in life positions. Because of this, it's no surprise that well over 100 different species of prehistoric marine wildlife have been discovered fossilized in the rock ledges that make up this amazing natural wonder. These unique ancient fossil beds serve not only as a history lesson of life before man, but also have helped shape the modern world as well. This is because the Falls of the Ohio isn't really a waterfall, but a series of rapids made up of the very limestone ledges that also house the fossilized reef bed. These rapids descend 26 feet in elevation over a 2-mile length of the Ohio, making traveling downriver very difficult during low river levels. So difficult, in fact, that it was the only natural barrier along the entire river, which meant traders and merchants had to stop here to portage goods or wait for the river to rise. This stopping point would later expand into the cities of Clarksville and Jeffersonville, Indiana, and Louisville, Kentucky. As a result of channeling of the river through a series of locks and dams completed in 1830, access to the archaeological site improved, preserving this ancient marvel for generations to come.
To discover more about this incredible Indiana wonder or to learn how to visit yourself, go to fallsoftheohio.org. Now, Aric, it's really incredible. This is the world's largest exposed Devonian, and you can just walk there and walk on this ancient seabed. It's phenomenal.
Wow, great idea for one of these gorgeous fall weekends we're having. Well, there are so many magnificent destinations along the Ohio. Just up the river, you'll find another fossil of Indiana history, frozen for all to see.
During the late 19th century, as settlers rushed west to discover unknown territory, river transportation was the heart of the New World, and Madison, Indiana became a center of industry.
We're midway between Cincinnati upriver and Louisville, Kentucky downriver, and both of those cities had large saddle making industries, and they needed saddle trees, which are the bones or the frame that a saddle maker attaches the leather to complete the saddle. There were 12 or 13 saddle tree factories in Madison, and they were producing upwards of 150,000 saddle trees per year and shipping them, as far as we know, worldwide.
Madison attracted residents from far and wide, including German immigrant Ben Schroeder. Schroeder started his own saddle tree company, working until his death in 1909, just as the dawn of the automobile threatened the industry nationwide.
Adapting to change was really critical for the Schroeders in keeping this business going. One of the early things that they did during the First World War was they got into glove manufacturing for a while. In the 1930s, they got into making clothespins. But, by the 1930s, there was really not a great demand for saddle trees. The Schroeders, for some reason, were able to hang on, and they became the last of the saddle tree companies in Madison, of the 12 or 13 that were here, and one of the very last in the United States from the 19th century.
Between 1878, when the company began, and 1972, after the last of Schroeder's sons passed away, the business produced between 300,000 and 500,000 saddle trees in over 250 styles.
When I first walked into the factory, I felt like I was walking into King Tut's tomb, because it felt like the Schroeders had just left. There were shop aprons still hanging, there was a lunch pail by a machine, saddle tree parts that were cut 20, 30, 40 years ago were still sitting next to their machines. The original sawdust was on the floor. It was so significant that the National Park Service sent its Historic American Engineering Record emergency team here in the 1970s to document the site, because they weren't sure if there were any saddle tree making factories like this left in the United States. So they wanted to at least take some photos and do some drawings of it and do some recordation in case it should disappear.
With no remaining relatives, the estate gifted the factory to Historic Madison in an effort to conserve the business's legacy. The organization did just that, treating the entire factory like an archaeological dig, gridding each square foot and tirelessly cataloging each item down to the sawdust on the floor. They sifted through not just the Schroeder history, but industrial history overall. They worked to save much more than just the buildings.
The Schroeders left such a rich site behind. They left parts and pieces in various stages of production. By looking at those parts and pieces of wood that were carved and shaped with different tools and machines, we were able to identify some of the processes in a step-by-step process as to how they made their saddle trees. And so over the course of a couple years, we were able to actually make a saddle tree, one saddle tree. Ben Schroeder would have fired us because we weren't producing 3 saddle trees per worker per day, which was their kind of production rate. Again, the idea was not only to preserve the buildings, but to try to, in some way, shape, or form, understand and preserve some of the manufacturing processes. Those are the sorts of things that disappear over time, and this is the only site in the nation where we are able to preserve the craft of the American saddle tree maker. Usually when you go to a museum or a historic site, it's the history of the rich and famous. The Schroeders were neither rich nor famous. They were middle-class business people with a small factory out in their backyard. So it's something that most Americans can relate to. People walk in here all the time and say, "Oh, this reminds me of Grandpa's barn, his woodwork shop." And all of a sudden, they are making the connection from something in their lives that was meaningful to something that they're seeing here today. We don't have history books. That stuff is kind of boring. But these places just bring history to life, and you just feel like you can almost reach out and touch those people that worked here. And so that's one of the things that makes this place so unique and important.
To learn more about the Saddletree Factory Museum, including hours and directions, visit historicmadisoninc.com. And there are lots of wonderful seasonal events happening in Madison right now. Learn more at visitmadison.org. Well, Daryl, this renovation of the Saddletree Factory was just fascinating because they essentially treated it as an archaeological dig. They even bagged the sawdust. I mean, just really detailed.
A precise recreation.
Yes.
Well, we are excited to welcome singer-songwriter Bryce E. Taylor to the studio, a practicing psychologist with a passion for music.
I was born in Fort Worth, Texas, and made my way via South Carolina back up to Indiana and live up in Muncie, Indiana. My father was pretty musical and had just a beautiful voice that I loved to hear. Learning the guitar was interesting because some of those chords, they kind of hurt your fingers and you have to keep doing them over and over, but I wanted to learn the song so bad that I'd just keep trying. And so with the guitar, it was that I pictured myself being able to play it better. And so I'd hear these songs and hear the music, and I wanted to do that myself. My songwriting process starts with an experience, something that stirred me or something that I feel like I need to sing about or work through. And that's kind of, I guess, more starting with the music. Other times I might have some kind of lyric in my head and I already have the tune or something, and then I go try to find how to play that on the guitar or a certain rhythm or something that I want to incorporate. I'm a practicing psychologist, a PhD in counseling psychology, and I found myself trying to bring music into the therapy sessions. For example, a child would come in with some traumatic experience, and one of the ways we'd work through that is to write a song about that. There's something about, taking problems, whatever they are, putting that outside yourself in some kind of art, music in this case. It allows you to see it a little bit different and not feel so controlled by it. None of us want to be alone, as we move through life and spinning around on the planet. One of the things where music's real important is helping others connect. This is life, everybody's experienced loss, everybody's experienced happiness. And so songs about that, I think, help us feel like we're connected to other people. The psychology in the songwriting colors my perception of things. Being a psychologist, I listen more carefully, perhaps. I pay attention more carefully. Also because I hear so many stories from other people, it's not just my well of stories. Again, putting it outside of myself, putting it in this creative product, and then I can look at it from different angles, but it's not turmoil inside you, or it's not so much of a struggle. It's just another part of your life that you're made sense of. I have this psychologist work that I do, and I'm a father, and I'm trying to do this music thing. I'm able to meet that challenge of balance as well as be able to express this passion and pursue this passion, and so that drives me. I'm not one to be a rock star or pop star or anything like that. What I want to do with music is help people to connect or build communities. It's really good to be around other musicians because you learn so much from them. They encourage you. I'm constantly learning from other musicians. I've chosen to be a psychologist. I've chosen to be a father. I think, though, at my core that I am an artist, and that's not really a choice. It's kind of who I am. I feel like I have to express that.
And now, Bryce E. Taylor.
The man with the muse has a room with a view in the clouds where he gains his perspective. All the pain and the love he sees from above, reacting perhaps, but reflecting. Because he is up there, safe from the cares and the stares and the wounds of dreams ripping away. paints and he prints big ideas that make sense while we scrounge for some morsel of meaning at the end of each day. I want to be you. I want to be you, the man with the muse. And there through the window, you alone, sipping coffee, wondering what it'd be like to just be. And not burn with this passion, be consumed by these visions, but empty don't make a man free. And you know so much more, seen these patterns before, you paint them in such vivid colors. I begin to believe, not to trust what I see, and that things can somehow get better for me and the other lovers. I want to be you. I want to be you. Oh, and I know I believe, and I could finally be me if I had the view of that man with the muse. So I walk down the street, staring down at my feet. One step follows the next in succession. But what if I was to stray, bemuse myself today and see a step outside as an expression? Oh, being alive, pulling out of this dive, saying life, pick me up and take me. Oh, take me. Would I rise like you above, even risk feeling love and give 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 and never feel empty? I want to be you. I want to be you. Oh, and I know I believe, and I could finally find me if I had the view, that man with the muse.
To enjoy more of Bryce's latest musical releases or to find an upcoming show in your area, visit his website, brycetaylormusic.com.
Well, that is all the time that we have for tonight. But before we go, I have to say, it's nice to be back in this chair.
It's nice to have you back, and I'm looking forward to seeing what we can explore in Indiana together.
Absolutely.
Well, before we leave for tonight, let's hear one more time from Bryce E. Taylor. Good night.
It's 4 in the morning, song still in my head. Can't get it out, can't get it out, can't get it out. brought me a smile I can taste ear to ear. Can't get it off, can't get it off. Can't wipe that smile off my face. 'Cause I love how you dance. The way you stomp your foot makes one wanna take a chance on something worth something. You have our attention, what will you do with it? Can't give it back, can't give it back. Think you're gonna hold on to our attention? Take us to mountain tops and darkness within us. Don't wanna go. Still I follow you there. 'Cause
Production support for the weekly special is provided by IU School of Public Health Bloomington, addressing public health needs by preventing disease, promoting health, and improving quality of life across the state and around the world through research, teaching, and community engagement.
Smithville Fiber, the Giga City Company, fiber internet, HD, and digital IPTV in southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com.
The Al Cobine Recognition Endowment Fund, established by friends and family of Al Cobine to support jazz initiatives on WTIU and WFIU. And WTIU members, thank you.